Now at 5, how local hospitals are preparing for potential surges in COVID cases.
The president meets with his coronavirus response team to discuss a new and potentially more dangerous COVID variant. I'm Natalie Brand at the White House, bringing you what we know so far.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
While there's still a lot to learn about the new Omicron COVID variant, local health officials say they're ready for whatever may come. This is KOAM News at 5. Officials with Freeman Hospital in Joplin say they've learned a lot from previous COVID case surges and are prepared should there be more in the future. Although it's not known if the Omicron variant will cause a surge or if it'll be as deadly as the Delta variant, Dr. Rob McNabb at Freeman says it's important to be prepared.
You know, we've had multiple surges over the past 2 years, and each time we've reached a new high water mark, you know, we've had to advance our plan and increase service lines. And so, you know, we have the ability to flex to 3 units if we need to and run them full time. And we've done that in the past, and we'd rather not do it again.
Tonight at 6, we're going to hear more from Dr. McNabb on what lessons the hospital has learned and how they're using that knowledge going forward. World health officials say the Omicron coronavirus variant poses a very high global risk. Here in the U.S., President Biden is taking action to slow the spread of the new variant, including new travel restrictions, which kicked in today. Reporter Natalie Brand has more details from the White House.
President Biden spent the morning huddled with his COVID response team discussing the newly discovered Omicron variant.
This variant is a cause for concern, not a cause for panic. We have the best vaccine in the world, the best medicines, the best scientists, and we're learning more every single day.
Today is the first day of travel restrictions in the United States, keeping non-U.S. citizens from entering the country from South Africa and 7 other nations. But the variant has spread well beyond southern Africa, reaching at least 14 countries, including our neighbor to the north, Canada.
We needed time to give people an opportunity to say, get that vaccination now before it heads. It's going to move around the world. I think it's almost inevitable there will be, at some point, that strain here in the United States.
The administration's top health officials spent Thanksgiving weekend coordinating with South African scientists to learn just how dangerous this new variant may be.
The things that we don't know right now is whether the people who do get infected have a severer form of the disease or whether it's a light disease or somewhat the same as Delta.
Omicron contains more than 30 mutations to its spike protein, prompting concerns from some it could be vaccine resistant.
My team is already working with officials at Pfizer and Moderna and Johnson & Johnson to develop contingency plans for vaccines or boosters if needed.
Vaccine manufacturers say it will take about 2 weeks to learn whether or not their drugs work against Omicron. Despite that, health officials say now is the time to get vaccinated or boosted. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
President Biden says America will not be fully safe from COVID until the rest of the world is vaccinated as well. We're going to have more on the specific concerns about the Omicron variant a little bit later in Health Watch. Delta and United Airlines say they do not have plans to cancel or delay direct flights to South Africa, despite the new travel restrictions to help stop the spread of the Omicron variant. The U.S. is banning entry to non-American citizens flying from 8 southern African countries. The World Health Organization has condemned countries across the globe for implementing the new travel bans. Checking in with Doug Heddy. Weather pretty nice today, Doug.
Yeah, it turned out to be a fantastic day across the region. Most of us went into the mid-60s for afternoon highs, a few mid and upper level clouds streaming across the region. But in general, it's turned out to be a really good day. We do have a weak wave passing by across the Great Lakes, and this is actually going to drag a cold front through later on tonight into tomorrow morning. It doesn't really have any cold air behind it. It's more like a wind shift, but still we're sitting nearly 60 degrees. Outside for us right now, we have the south winds, which have been kind of helping our temperatures warm up. Kind of breezy for us today. Those southwesterly winds in that 5 to 15 degree range. Through the evening hours, pretty much clear skies. We're going to drop back through the 50s, eventually into lower 40s later on tonight. Warms up even more as we go through the week. We're going to look at that here in just a bit.
Then. The sex trafficking trial of Gelane Maxwell got underway today in New York City. The indictment charges that Maxwell helped Jeffrey Epstein recruit, groom, and ultimately abuse victims as young as 14 years old. She's accused of befriending alleged victims, taking them to the movies or shopping. The indictment says her presence during minor victims' interactions with Epstein helped put the victims at ease because an adult woman was present. If convicted, Maxwell could spend the rest of her life in prison. Former Department of Justice official Jeffrey Clark may be facing charges. The House Select Committee probing the January 6th siege on the U.S. Capitol is scheduled to meet Wednesday to vote on a report that calls for Clark to be held for criminal contempt of Congress. If the committee votes in favor, Clark would be the second person to possibly face charges for not providing information under subpoena. Iran nuclear talks resumed today for the first time since a new hardline Iranian president took office this summer. Negotiations were underway earlier this year but stalled in June. The U.S. says Iran has moved closer to a nuclear weapon since President Trump withdrew from the so-called Jcpoa in 2018. The UN says that deal had been working to prevent Iranian weapon development. More low-income families are eligible for assistance with their heating bills. The federally funded Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program has doubled the income cap and benefit amount for people to receive assistance. In Missouri, the Spire Gas Company is partnering with community action agencies to help customers sign up for the program. The energy provider is hosting in-person sessions and interactive webinars to help guide customers through the application process. The next webinar is this coming Thursday at 11 a.m. You can find more information at koamnewsnow.com. Still ahead, addressing the supply chain crisis.
CEOs from some of the nation's top retailers meet with President Biden just as the busy holiday shopping season kicks off. I'm Skyler Henry in Washington with more on the administration's focus on supply chains and the goal to ensure store shelves are stocked.
And next in Health Watch, why the Omicron variant is raising concern among health officials. Topping today's Health Watch, concerns about the latest coronavirus variant are mounting as the holiday season's upon us. Reporter Naomi Ruckham has more on why.
As more countries report cases of the new coronavirus variant Omicron, there are concerns about whether it's more contagious and virulent than the Delta variant.
This thing has mutated like crazy. There's at least 30 mutations in the spike protein. This is like way more than any other variant.
Those mutations could make it easier for the virus to infect the cells. Dr. Robert Murphy is an infectious disease specialist at Northwestern Medicine.
If you look at the data, it does look like it's most likely transmitting easier than Delta. We don't know if it's really any worse as far as disease progression or death or hospitalization. So it may be very similar to what we saw with Delta. But all this really has to play out, and it's going to take us probably at least 1 to 2 weeks.
Another concern, how effective current vaccines will be against the new variant, which is now being studied.
It's most likely that the current vaccines do offer some kind of protection.
How many more of these variants could there be in our future?
It's going to be endless until everybody's vaccinated.
Experts agree a worldwide vaccination effort is critical to stop this pandemic because the longer it goes on, the more likely the virus can mutate. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
The CDC announced it's expanding its booster shot recommendation to include everyone 18 years old and older. Researchers say they've come up with a reliable way to determine which COVID-19 patients will most likely die from the disease. Scientists in Montreal looked at hundreds of patients and found that the amount of viral RNA in the blood was directly associated with mortality. A new study finds there were no decreases in new cancer diagnoses among children in Canada during the first 9 months of the pandemic. Research from other countries, including the United Kingdom, show a steep reduction in new cases, and studies from the United States suggest a drop as well. Engineers at Washington University in St. Louis have developed scans that have uncovered new connections between rotator cuff tendons and their bony attachments. Researchers say the discovery sheds new light on why rotator cuff surgery frequently fails. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, retail analyst predictions for Cyber Monday shopping numbers.
Plus, it looks like a fairly mild week to wrap up the month of November. We're going to look at that coming up. It definitely turned out to be a great Monday for us today. Temperature is fantastic as we went into the mid-60s for highs. We're even going to warm up a little bit more later on this week. We're going to kind of hold steady, at least over the next couple days, compared to what we did see today. But we do warm back up later on this week. Plus, we're in a pretty calm part of the pattern. We're not going to have many storm systems over the next several days. We're going to do the month-long forecast Wednesday. We'll do the winter forecast on Thursday. So a lot down the road over the next few days. Look at our temperatures. Most of us upper 50s to lower 60s across the region. So nice. It's mild. Wrapping up the month of November. We do have a fast-moving system across the Great Lakes, and this is dragging a cold front just to our north that will sink in later on tonight. But as you can see behind it, not much in the way of cold air. So it's mainly just a wind shift line as it works through over about the next 12 hours or so. Nice little strong southerly winds all day long for us today are going to stay kind of in that 5 to 15 mile per hour range. Great shot, sun setting, gets dark early, 5:15, but pretty much clear skies. 60, our dew point at 39, relative humidity is at 46%, so we don't have a lot of moisture in the air. We're going to drop back through the 50s, eventually down into lower 40s a little bit later on tonight. But not a lot going on here. We just have these mid and upper level clouds kind of streaming through. Here's that fast moving wave across the Great Lakes. You can kind of see that cold front dragging back behind it. And then if we look out toward the west, we're really kind of dominated by this big dome of high pressure. So it sends these storm systems up over the ridge and then they kind of drop down mainly north of us. And that's why we're not seeing much in the way of action over the past few days. And we're not going to see much action over the next few days. For us tonight, southerly winds. We drop back into lower 40s. We are going to get some clouds increasing through the daytime hours tomorrow. You can see the winds kind of shift around to the northeast. And we may get a random sprinkle or two early afternoon into the middle of the afternoon. But still, I think our temperatures overall look pretty good. A little bit cooler than what we saw today, but not bad. 42 to start, 59 by noon, high temp of 64. We're going to have those northeasterly winds at about 5 to 10. Still partly cloudy skies for us tomorrow night. We'll drop back into lower 40s once again, and then as we head into Wednesday, we'll get southerly winds back, and this will bounce us back into the mid-60s for highs. So Tuesday, a lot of clouds tomorrow, maybe a random shower or sprinkle. Wednesday looks pretty good, and then we really start to warm up as we head into Thursday and Friday. I think Thursday we're going to go into the 70s for highs. So Thursday looks great. On Friday, we'll get some more clouds. We should still go into the 70s. There's going to be a weak little system that passes by Friday night into Saturday morning. This could give us a few showers, and then we'll cool down a little bit behind it. But overall, temperature's pretty good this week. 64 tomorrow, 66 on Wednesday, 72 Thursday, 73 on Friday, and then back into the 50s, closer to where we should be for this time of the year, heading into the weekend and early next week.
Yeah, you hit the 70s in December, even briefly. You can't complain.
Not bad at all.
Thanks, Doug. Hey, our annual Toy Box campaign is underway. Each year, we ask for donations of toys or money to buy toys to give to area kids in need. All of your donations can stay in the county where you live. You can find a list of drop-off locations on our website. That's KOAMnewsnow.com. Or you can make a financial donation by phone during our Toy Box Tuesday telethons. The first one's going to be tomorrow on our noon, 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. news. Hope you'll join us. Coming up, how the Biden administration plans to address supply chain issues. First, though, we recognize a local veteran of the U.S. Army. Sergeant Derek Lutters served in Iraq in 2004 and 2005. He has ties to Goodland, Kansas and Columbus, Kansas, and we're proud to salute Sergeant Derek Lutters, a four-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, Cyber Monday today could set a new record for online shopping. Amazon says globally, customers ordered 1,600 items per second on Black Friday, and today could be even busier. Retail analysts predict online shoppers will spend a record $11.3 billion today. But a shipping bottleneck and trucking delays are making it difficult for retailers to deliver. Adobe Analytics says out-of-stock messages in November were up 124% from pre-pandemic levels. The most common out-of-stock items are appliances, electronics, housekeeping supplies, and home and garden items. President Biden met with top business leaders this Cyber Monday to discuss ways to help ease supply chain backups and rising prices. Skylar Henry reports from Capitol Hill.
The president convened a roundtable of top retail executives at the White House as his administration tackles a major slowdown in the delivery of goods and supplies, coupled with inflation.
Consumer spending has recovered to where it was headed before the pandemic.
Last month, he laid out several steps to address the backlog, including expanded work hours at several major ports and warehouses, and billions of dollars for port upgrades.
And we've seen some progress in that effort with a number of containers sitting on docks for more than 8 days, down by over 40% this month.
Our supply chain is strong and robust, and we have ample product inside of our stores.
The White House and congressional Democrats say the Build Back Better Act will help lower inflation, but Republicans who oppose the bill disagree.
I view this as a back-breaking bill for the country, with the kind of expenses, the spending, the adding to the debt, the inflation.
The president's agenda, the Democratic agenda, is going to lower costs for people across the country. That contrasts with what we're seeing from the other side, which is not a lot of ideas in the cupboard.
Senate Democratic leaders say they want to get the social spending measure to the president's desk by Christmas. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Tomorrow, President Biden heads to Minnesota to promote parts of the bipartisan infrastructure law and his social spending and climate agenda. Air travel is almost back to pre-pandemic levels, at least on holidays. The Transportation Security Administration screened 2.45 million people yesterday. That's the busiest day since the pandemic began, and 85% of the volume seen on the same day in 2019. It's also double the number of people who passed through airports last year. In total, the TSA screened 20.9 million people over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Jack Dorsey is stepping down as CEO of Twitter. In a statement, he says he's leaving because the company is ready to move on from its founders. Dorsey will stay on as a member of Twitter's board until at least next year. Twitter's chief technology officer, Parag Agrawal, will take over as CEO. A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, a story of survival for the world's most premature baby. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to have more on how local hospitals are preparing for another potential COVID surge. Plus, a federal judge blocks a vaccine mandate for healthcare workers in some states, including Missouri. And Joplin police arrest an arson suspect. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. The White House is ready for the holidays. Look at this. First Lady Jill Biden unveiling this year's holiday theme and decor titled Gifts from the Heart. Her office says it was inspired in part by the challenges of the pandemic. More than 100 volunteers from the D.C. area spent a week decorating the inside and outside of the White House. The display includes 41 Christmas trees, about 6,000 feet of ribbon, 300 candles, more than 10,000 ornaments, and nearly 79,000 holiday lights. Like the Griswolds.
Looks pretty good.
Yes, it does. Beautiful. The weather looking pretty good.
Yeah, not Christmas-like at all this week. Temperatures way up there. 64 tomorrow, maybe a notch or two cooler than what we did see today. 66 Wednesday. Look at the 70s. Thursday and Friday, we are going to get some rain in here Saturday morning, and that will cool us back down to more of a reality of where we should be.
We have to come back to reality eventually. Thanks for joining us. The CBS Evening News is next. And of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. See you then. Let's make it a great evening.